We're here with Jerry Cuan. You got such a great background. I mean, the thing that obviously you've got fast drive football behind you there. I've got your Buccaneers franchise playoff bracket behind me here. You've been doing amazing work for the whole community there. That's obviously not the only work you do in sports gaming. You help Pete Ventura replay, right?
Yes, replay baseball, yep.
And you've got your own bowling game, a free game called The Pocket. You're a war gamer, sports gamer, video board game. I mean, you run the gamut. I mean, it's awesome. I did want to talk really quickly about the fast drive football because it's a drive-by-drive game, but you immediately went in and you started creating allocations for individual scoring. And I'm just curious, what is that thing in us as gamers, as sports gamers particularly, that's like, we got to know who scored. We got to know that.
Yeah, I think so. I actually first bought Game Winning Drive by Downey Games. Looked really good, and I haven't played it, but I kind of went through the entire process of, watching videos. I did purchase the greatest the Super Bowl team set, and when I got there, I said, well, you know what? That's where I kind of want to, even though I might get a score, I'd like to know if it was Montana to Rice or Young to Rice or Elway to whoever. Final scores are okay, but in my case, yeah, same thing there. It kind of adds a little more flavor to it. So, but I never really got into it enough to go, man, that's going to be a lot of work to go through the last 50 some odd years to calculate that stuff. But then when Fast Drive Football hit, and it's just such a wonderful game, and I started to say, yeah, that'd be kind of cool to at least get the who scored, and then I found it really easy to download the data from Pro Football Reference. If it wasn't easy, I wouldn't do it. But it was, in this case, full seasons too. I wasn't just trying to pull out 2 teams out of every season. In the case of Al doing these seasons and not all at once, it gives me a little bit of a breather, but I automated it through Excel. And yeah, to me, it made perfect sense to just add some flavor to it. And then I saw another gamer on Delphi that said he was using real life scores from the games if he wanted, if he was either an override or he did that first or whatever his options were. And I said, well, I might as well give our community both options. You can have a true touchdown finder of the actual yardage, or you can just go by a person scoring, or I have that random chart that attempts to come up with some random yardage, that may or may not be realistic. You don't want Refrigerator Perry running off a 37-yard run, but maybe he could do it. But doing that research even on those true touchdown finders is interesting to see. Some teams may only had 4 rushing touchdowns all year. I think it was the Bills one I brought up to Al. Four touchdowns all year, and they're all 1-yard runs. I'm like, wow, I would never even known that unless I was looking at that thing. I could live with the scores, but I thought, I just a little extra flavor just to even get names associated. Stats, I like stats, but I don't feel it's needed for like fast drive football. It's not, if I want that, I can go to some other mechanism to get those yardage and all that stuff. But now, conversely, I got the college for Downey's game-winning drive, and I have no interest in pulling all that data. Or even I'm okay with saying, Michigan beat USC and and do tournament style stuff and let that run its course. But the NFL, I've always enjoyed since I was a teenager, and yeah, it brings back memories to see it's Bradshaw to Swan, or it's a Rocky Blyer or Tony Dorsett or whoever it might be scoring a touchdown. It just adds some flavor to it while the game's going on.
Or Tim Tebow beating the Steelers in the fastest postseason.
I'm a Bronco fan, but Tebow, oh my God, we've had Elway and Manning, and then you get Tebow and some other really bad ones. So, like most franchise, you don't get those superstar quarterbacks all that often, but man, you got some real stinkers you have to live through once in a while. So.
It's interesting. Well, again, but we card them all here.
Exactly.
You've got a wealth of experience. I just, I'm really curious and I did buy Downey Games as well because I'd heard maybe you and some other folks talk about, of the game win of the drive-by-drive games. Like, oh, really? There's,
one, yeah.
It's amazing what's out there. What's your take? Like quick synopses of the classics and the new stuff.
Like I said, Downey, I looked at it, looked too mechanical. It's pretty much a smaller set of drives. You have to do some math to adjust the ranges. I get all that, and I doubt. I have no doubt that it's accurate. But to me, once I saw what Al did, which was a combination of I have second season. I've got history maker baseball. I've got golf. So I know the second season and the Keith, what he does, and to apply that to football in such a way where it's not just a quick drive roll and you're done. You go through those checks and you can kind of feel the narrative. And that's kind of where I feel it's not just a dry roll the numbers and you're done. So, which a lot of games tend to do that because you're looking for a quick play, but this kind of gives you're not worrying about making a fourth down call or trying to third and long and go, I'm just going to throw long, but it's going to be incomplete. And, you're just doing drive by drive. You're not, worried about so much the details as much as getting to the end of the story. And you can see how a team progressed through there. Like when I played the 76 Steelers versus 76 Buccaneers almost beat them, but they couldn't. But it was like, yeah, sometimes that happens. But, if I just rolled the dice and said, oh, they won, I think the game was 6-5 or 8-5. It was some bizarre low score first time I did it. And, maybe wouldn't even believed it, but the flow of the game, I could see how it ended up that way and just waiting for the Steelers to do something on offense. And they didn't do it the first time. Second time they beat them pretty good when I did that. But same thing with the Tampa Bay playoff thing. Once I noticed the seasons that Al has, the 17 seasons, there's only like 4 teams that have winning records. So there are a lot of dogs. And Tampa Bay is not one of those historical, powerhouse franchise, but, they have the tail end of the winless 76 and the Super Bowl champs of last year. So I thought something in the middle might be interesting, but I'll finish that up. But that's going to be some interesting dogs to play out to see how that turns out.
Well, now you've got the Brady dynasty coming up the next 10 years. They're going to be popular. So, come on. Patience for everybody. but you are, you've done Strato for years, APBA, you've got a bunch of stuff in shrink wrap too. In terms of the play-by-play stuff versus the drive-by-drive stuff, do you get in different moods? Do you find like I'm really good to settle into a nice longer narrative play-by-play, or has that kind of lost its charm when something as elegant as FDF, fast drive football, has come along?
Yeah, I think my tastes have grown. When I was a teenager, I pitch by pitch baseball. I had one of those games. It wasn't a player stat reel one. It was a older game from the 50s or 60s, but you would call the pitch and you would call what you're swinging at. And, that would have taken forever for me and my brother to finish the game. Even through my teenage up to playing Strat and APBA, we knocked out 3 54-game seasons between 4 of us, drafting teams and just playing head to head, and we did it all. We knocked out one summer, so that quick was pretty good. But nowadays, I just, between work, my 2 daughters, and everything else, I if you'd have asked me this many years ago, I'd have said, no, why? The quick play sounds stupid to me, whether it's drive by drive or whatever. I don't even want to. That doesn't make no sense. That's not how it's done. But now I almost lean towards quicker play games like golf, also bowling, things I can almost knock out in a short period of time and not have to feel like it's a drudge, a long drawn pitcher replay, team replay, whether it's baseball or football or whatever. So, but it kind of goes in streaks. But even the drive-by-drive football, even though I like Downey's game for that, I just couldn't get into it enough to even start anything. But like I said, once, Al did such a wonderful job, it just captivated me, and that's what got me motivated to generate some of these add-ons and to stay active in Facebook. Probably I wouldn't even be on Facebook much if it wasn't for Fast Drive Football. So my Jerry Cuan would still be in the sidelines because I don't use Facebook as any other medium except to do the Fast Drive Football answering and whatever I can create. And the only time I do is I actually have the 2 groups that I spend way too much time on, which are the solo wargaming and the solo gaming. So my bank account's taking quite a hit with that Facebook account there. So
yeah. Well, oh boy, so many avenues we can go down here with you. Let's start with the bowling game you created, the Pocket. Yeah. Why bowling? And you talked about the mechanism of just kind of rolling dice. APBA bowling, a lot of people love it. Some say it's a dice rolling exercise, which, it's all dice, but, do you make is there any way to make a bowling game with a decision making? Tell me about your game.
Well, yeah, so I bowled quite a bit in the leagues here in Michigan. And so I enjoy bowling, and I used to always love watching bowling on TV, back in the day, and you can catch some nowadays, but I have APBA bowling. I've played that. I have Bowlorama from Keith's line of games. Plus, home court bowling, and a few other weird ones that either aren't player based, but just kind of like rolling, dice and getting like a strike or a spare, not tied to professional stats or whatever, which is the most difficult thing. There really aren't any stats for bowlers. I mean, you get an average and that's about it. Walter Williams is a good spare pickup person, but you don't know if it's 99% on a 10 pin or if it's 95% or 20%. I mean, it's way in the high in the 90s, but so it's not as easy to I believe get a customized unique bowler card. So for me, when I did in the pocket bowling, I wanted to do something that was quicker play. So again, almost to fast drive football or some of the other like golf and some other ones you can get like Dice Nuts Golf and some other ones that are real quick, like one hole or one couple strokes. But this one's a frame by frame. So since I also did not have frequencies of how often certain pins are left up, I could go by the APBA boards, but dumb boards that's got way too much data, and I wasn't going to try and replicate an APBA game and try and squish it down. So to me, doing research like crazy, 55% or more of pros will throw strikes. So I don't have to spend a lot of time developing something of, did they hit the right oil pattern? Were their speed this way? Was it what, all these little factors that may go into it. It's a strike. And then I just had to kind of blend the rest of the spare leaves and put it through Excel and that type of thing. So my in the pocket bowling game uses just bowlers' averages. And because I can simulate tens of thousands of games, I know the card patterns that will get me a 200 bowler, a 220 bowler, a 190 bowler, whatever. And so those card patterns are pretty set. So I don't have uniqueness in anything other than if the average is 220 and the guy's 210, everybody that averages the same 220 gets the same kind of card that looks like it. They're different, obviously, but nobody gets a slight little tweak because they're Walter A. Williams or anything like that. So for me, it's quick, and for me that you kind of get there's not a lot of tension. You don't have to make decisions on, if there's a split, do I go for 2 pins or do I try and pick up the 2 pins on the left and the 1 pin on the right, like the 4, 7, 10? Or that kind of thing. I'm pretty much rolling just to get the averages, and see who wins. So that's why I think APBA has that, because it is a ball by ball. You also have some options, rolling it safe or going for it, trying to pick up the split or not, where you have a risk and reward. So again, for me, trying to get down, if I had the data, I would probably do that. So I'm kind of glad not. Otherwise, I'd be spending all the time doing the bowling game. But and I made it free to everybody. Delphi forums, the people, a lot of them know that they can get it. I used to have it on Pete Habel's website. He did ball score, ball stat. He passed away. I just don't feel right using his as a his server or whatever, it's still up, but I'm not promoting my game that much anymore. Not a lot of bowlers. It's more of a niche game. That's why it's also free. There's a PC version. I've got couple different versions. The first version is a PC version, so people like that. There's a couple YouTube videos that have reviews of the board and the PC game. So it's kind of cool to develop that and have it be realistic, and it's also free. It's almost like Al, if he makes a mistake, he doesn't have too many people yelling at him like, hey, you made these card sets or charts and you charged me for them, now I got to make new ones. He's like, no, you here they are, they're free. I mean, they're charityware, but and I don't even mind the fact that there's another version. I got them babies hard laminated, coiled up. I mean, I spent more money on fast drive football than if Al would have charged me. That's just how wonderful I like this game. So I got big metal dice. I got dice tower. I go all out for this game. So yeah, like I said, we go down so many different avenues, but that's kind of the gist of the bowling, just because I bowled back in the 90s and did pretty good. I think by the time I was done, I averaged 207 and 204, so not like the 220 guys or whatever, and I wasn't just a hack throwing the ball down the middle and watching the pins fly. But I just thought that because APBA bowling is hard to get and the seasons only go back like to 1978, I'm thinking, if I make it simple enough, I should be able to card any player, any bowler, anybody, even fictional ones or however want to do it. And that's kind of was my gist behind that.
Touching on the again, what how Al has done his thing and how you do your thing, provide the game. I mean, that in this day, I wonder if that's not kind of a hint of a model that some game companies, might follow in terms of having something that is derived from their main game engine become kind of a download downloadable taster or something like that. I mean, you're a war gamer. War games are through the roof.
Yeah.
Mention the, DVG and Compass and GMT, and Worthington just has the whole Band of Brothers reprint, which I'm all in on. And there's Age of Dogfights and Doolittle Raid and all. I mean, just the war games are through the roof in the past 5-7 years. The sports, I feel, and I wonder if you think the same. The sports games have either gone video or they're just, the board game sport experience is somehow not keeping up, is my guess. So,
I get the same feeling. It seems to be more people want the PC flavor, even if it's a PC replica of the board game itself, like Replay and some other ones. Or you got Pro Football Strategy on Stream, which is only like $25 for football, and you can call plays. I love that one because it's automated and fast. I love the X's and O's. The old NFL strategy games with the cards and have the run plays or the pay plays and defense. And, I love X's and O's. Yeah, that's the best part of football. But for me to play a solo game or to even, I know my bias will come in and I'll try to throw way too many touchdown passes to Sterling Sharp or somebody, or run Terrell Davis for 3,000 yards, where I'm thinking, I got to do what's realistic. In a PC game, sometimes you can get away with that too, trying to just run up the score or do whatever, where at least Fast Drive Football, you're just getting to a result and a story, but you're not trying to almost make it look like, or some people obviously, I think 2nd and 10 is another good game, and I've enjoyed playing that quite a bit, but I've also noticed you can really get some outliers where you might throw 4 or 5 interceptions, or someone may run for 300 yards, and you're going, and I don't know if this feels realistic, but I'm thinking that's within the probabilities of the game, and sometimes that happens. And so, but I think you're right. I think it's getting tougher for baseball, any sport, to the company that's making their cards and dice. I'm if you're not one of the top dogs, I think it's tough to make a lot of money or to generate new sales. I think the PC, the PS4, the PC games, I admit every Friday I go over with my brother and a friend, and we do every Friday night, 4:30 p.m. till 2:30 in the morning, we're playing the PGA 2K21 golf game, or we're playing hockey, because that seems to have really, we can't play football or baseball because then people are going for it on 4th down and doing stupid things. So hockey, you kind of self-contained within there. You're going to get a 2-1, 3-2, whatever. But football, that can get out of hand real fast if you're trying to play, my brother or someone, and yeah. So we pretty much stick to those 2 games. But so I get that kind of visual kind of feel to the games, but I still love the cards and dice, and I do have some PC games too. But at the end of the day, I really do have, like, just going back and grab my old APBA sets, my old Strat sets, the old Replay Classic sets, and just kind of just slowing things down and just not trying to do a big project, but just play some games to get a feel. And Fast Drive Football, as you do both, I mean, you can knock out so much stuff real fast and not feel like you're rushing so fast, like a PC game where you're clicking so fast you're maybe not retaining the story or how you got there, because you can get there a lot quicker. Plus, the other thing is the stat compiling for all the, PC games and stuff. That's what's tough, because there's so many stats in baseball. I've done pitcher replays. I've done the 80 Phillies team replay to a point. I got bogged down in that. I got to a point where my best one is just trying to replicate hitting streaks. I did a Ron LaFleur APBA 1976 hitting streak. I got him up like 20 games or something, 17, 18, but it dropped off. But those are, just one-offs that I know that could end after 1 or 2 games or whatever. But yeah, I have a lot more ideas and wanting to play. But yeah, like I said, my daughters are one's in college and one's a sophomore in high school. So, and I'm a single dad with full custody. So, they're number one priority. But if I get time, I want to somehow squeeze in some games, which is better the quicker play games now catch my attention more. But I keep saying I'll play more when I retire, but I don't know. I've got way too many, like I said, war games. My daughters ask me, why are those games on shrink wrap? When are you going to play those? I go, I don't know. I gotta have them. I buy them, but either that or I get to sell them off when I'm dead. I'm not for sure. Put a little price tags on them and leave them in shrink wrap. But yeah, so I'm just a gamer at heart. I love to either look at games. I don't try to make them better, like Fast Drive Football. One thing I have not attempted to do at all was trying to come up with any kind of optional rules. I don't mind the add-ons and make them optional, because it just adds flavor. But I trust Alan what he's doing, and I don't feel like I need to make too many. I don't feel like I make any changes to it, to be honest. So that's a mark of a good game.
Madden comes out every year with its player and team ratings. Madden's been going, God, 20 years now. Do you get a sense that the video games have dialed in a sense of realism, or do you always sense that the kind of the CPU takes over and the AI and the, do you think that there's some good games that have balanced the two?
My brother and I played the Madden, I think it was 16 or 17, and now we're obviously up to 21, 22 coming out or whatever. But it seems like what I've read lately of those games, they are really going downhill as far as realism. They've got some graphic issues, they got whatever. And even playing the hockey game, the nice thing is you can set the settings for more simulation, which is what we do. We slow it down. We make it less realistic that you can make it arcade and ping your passes exactly where you're going in hockey, because that just doesn't happen. That puck bounces around a lot more than just a zip, zip, zip. But we do play online against some other teams, and you can tell the guys that have the fast-paced created wingers, and if they're on a breakaway, they're going to score. And you're like, that doesn't happen all the time, and we're just rushing up and down like the old Lakers fast break, and it's like, this isn't real hockey. So we are getting less and less inclined to play other people there, but we tend to, whether it's Madden or the hockey or baseball, the show and all those, we try to find the settings that'll start to bring it not to be so arcadish, because yes, you can get some really non-realistic things, and especially when you make a competition. I watched a football one online. I think they had their little football playoffs and top guys, and man, they're running around and scrambling. And like, this wouldn't happen in real life. They're winging it down there, but they know the plays that kind of work. They know the ones that, the glitches in the system or whatever. And so you got to take it for what it's worth, but we don't try to take it too serious, but we do try to at least get the simulation so it's not just arcadish, because yeah, if it's just a bunch of arcade, that kind of ruins. It's not like really playing the sport at all. So it's almost what I tell those guys, we should just go back to playing cards and dice, because you don't really have a lot of your thumbs and your, the glitches and the PC and the AI. And that's kind of why I don't, as much as I like Second and 10, Replay Baseball, a lot of those games, there's sometimes they're just not for sure either how the result happened, or if there is a problem with it, you're stuck with the result. Where board games, you total control of things. You also can make mistakes and follow and not do a rule right. But to me, the cards and dice come first, and probably one of the best ones is the golf game. We play that a lot of golf. I mean, that golf game's awesome. Matter of fact, we set it up so we have every week we play the same course the pros play. So you can watch the game, you play in a course, and it feels like you're there. It's like, wow, that's cool. But golf is a slower paced game, and it's just, it's not like baseball and football where you have less, offense and defensive strategies, But to your point, I think back to cards and dice, I feel for, APBA and Replay and Strat. I know I have no access to any kind of sales or anything, but I hope they're all doing well. But I just don't, like you said, I think the solo board gaming and the war gaming took off with COVID too. You could see those in those forums. People were just wanting to buy everything, and all the Kickstarter. I got to get off Kickstarter, or my kids aren't going to have any money. So, matter of fact, I was just clicking on Kickstarter for 2 minutes to midnight. I had the shipping thing, so I was clicking on that to do that just before we got on. But yeah, people talk about delays. That can be really crazy. You prepay for a Kickstarter thing, and especially if it's made overseas or whatever, or you may be waiting 6 months or a year and a half before you see the stuff. So I'm trying to limit the Kickstarter stuff unless it almost looks like it's a gotta-have game. But yeah. But like I said, I think the big boon happened with COVID for those, because people needed some kind of entertainment. Hopefully they did more sports games too. But yeah, I think it's just doesn't seem to be sports as popular as maybe as it has been in the past. But that's just a feeling. Not just like I said, most of the people I know from work. And I mean, there's people that do fantasy football. There's people talk about the Tigers here in Michigan. There's and definitely college football is big. So, those are there. And maybe that's why there's such a big college football push for fast drive football, is because I think that, is different game than the pros. Plus it's a, more focused, and I think you could probably sell more college type stuff than the pros. But to me, I like the pros first. I mean, that's why I love fast drive football. I could, every season he's out there, I'm trying to think of something to do with it. So
you're obviously a Broncos fan. So going back, one of the first seasons was that our release was 1960. I mean, the AFL folks are pretty rabid and also not really happy about the Hall of Fame and some of the folks excluded from it, but just looking into Randy Gradishar's records and stuff like that. It really, when you talk about playing those eras, I think you had talked about, some other folks had talked about how fast drive football really nails the kind of the feel era to era in terms of turnovers, overall team efficiency. What's your take on normalizing across eras? Do you do anything to try to, if a game feels like it's not realistic? I mean, look, you've got teams built to be running teams versus teams in a different era. It's just different. That's just the way it is. What's your take on that? I'm curious.
Yeah, especially with football, 2nd and 10. I know Wayne, who created the game, and then Richard Hanna created the PC version. It was 1st and 10, it became 2nd and 10. But in there, because all the seasons are available, I've had experience playing the teams from the 60s, and we had some leagues set up. And yeah, it's frustrating. Like you either run, punt, or you try a pass, or it's turnover. And you're like, well, that's the way they played. So in general, and I did the same thing with my bowling game, was trying to how to figure out some normalization. So I did figure out a bowling average normalization, which is much easier than trying to incorporate all the other variables like interceptions, fumbles, and style of play. It's things we can't get away from. It is what it is. And that's why I think if I do anything with fast drive football after the franchise thing, or at least with Tampa Bay, I might do one with Denver as well, but maybe not go back as far. Or I try to, at least if I do something that's multiple seasons, I try to keep them closer together because of that, especially like the field goal lengths and some of these rules. Because playing the 1960 Broncos versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just thinking of those two, you're thinking, the new team's just going to demolish the old team, but how do you normalize it? So I probably wouldn't even go down that road. I almost avoid it since I have everything. But but like the World Series teams are great teams, are like APBA I've got and Strat. And at some point, I'm going to be playing some 1900s baseball versus some 2000s baseball. And like I said, I get normalization. I study that. I pick up when other companies try to do those sets, but it's it's the faith in the math, and either you buy into it or you don't. Like I said, I probably, I probably would avoid just playing too far of a wide range of the eras. That's why I would say it. I would avoid it, but it wouldn't bother me if I played them and the other teams didn't win. That just means, I haven't tried Al's. I looked at his charts. I always got some conversion charts or how to handle that, and that's fine. Same thing like I did with 2nd and 10. Yeah, I know there's some adjustments made there, but for the most part, I think I just tend to kind of keep things within the decade that it might be in, or the era of rules, because football's pretty much got those 3 basic ones based on kickoff and field goal length and that type of thing.
Tell me, let's change gears here and go back to baseball. How did you start working with Pete Ventura in replay?
So this is so one time I stopped playing baseball once I got married for the 2nd time, and all my friends moved away. All my cards and dice sports games pretty much went in the closet or down in the basement, or it never, they moved with me, but I never really broke them out. So in 2000, somehow I had a weird dream that I was playing boards games, cards and dice. I woke up and said, man, I want to go play some cards and dice. Well, what the heck's available? And this was like I said, 2000. So I started looking online, and the last game I had was Pursue the Pennant. I found that turned into Dynasty League Baseball. So I said, okay, I'll order those sets, played online. Didn't really like the online experience in the draft mode because of the lefty-righty and some other stuff there. And it just didn't seem like it wasn't fun to play, especially the competitive mode we're in. I looked forward to playing it, but then it got to be really weird with the drafts and the trades, these powerhouse teams. So I said, this isn't really what I'm into. So I said, well, I'll go develop my own game because, again, that's what I like to do. It's how hard can it be? Although it is. So I started poking around trying to search I saw APBA was still out there. I saw Strat was still out there. I stumbled across replay because Pete Ventura was just re-bringing it back in. I think 98 and 99 were his first 2 years, seasons of doing it. And I saw the automated base stealing. I saw a bunch of things that he had in there for like a solo gamer. I said, well, heck, stop developing. This looks like the game I want. So then I started buying it and then got in, and almost like with Al's. I mean, I will say if I really like it, I'll jump in with both feet like I've done with Fast Drive Football. But even with replay, I've stuck with it too. But again, that one struck a chord because I have had other games. I didn't jump into those, but replay really intrigued me. And then it got to a point where Pete and I had a lot of phone calls, and then we got to a point where my working with Excel and Access databases at Kellogg's and my background and stuff, I told him I could possibly do some things to help him out. And so one of the things he wanted to enhance his game a lot better was to take the play-by-play data that Retro Sheet has, because they catalog every single play for every single game that they have scorecards for, going back, whatever. And that's a lot of data, but you can get so much stuff on, base hits to left field, or runner advancement, throwing base. There's a lot of runners on base, runners on, bases empty. A lot of stuff you just wouldn't have time to really try and figure all that out for all across seasons. So I pretty much download the data and give him a easy, whatever format he needs. I crunch the big data into the small, and then he's able to build his cards. So. And then Richard does the testing to the PC, but essentially it comes in from the Retro Sheet play-by-play event data. So I do that for him once a year and give him the database, and he's off and running. He does give me free sets, so I get compensated for that. That's all. I don't need money like that. And there's even seasons I even told him, I said, most of the modern seasons I don't really need. I have way too many sets right now. Don't send me them right now. There's just way too many cards I don't see myself doing. I still got projects I want to do in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm not even ready for, current generation. But yeah, just to get to know Pete, talk to him on the phone, offer my services. And then, and we've talked about replay football. We've talked about all kinds of other things. So I consider him a friend, and just more to help him out.
That brings up a couple points. I mean, the gaming community, how we help each other so much, which building the bonds of community in gaming, and particularly in the sports world, but also the idea that games, like you said, strike a chord. I mean, every game, you kind of have to play through and find your flavor and what really resonates to you. So you kind of leave games as they are. You don't really cross-pollinate, like, I'm going to take some Strato with some APBA and kind of blend it. You kind of...
Yeah, no, I've never really, I try to respect, I wouldn't say it's even respect. I know some guys almost think that's sacrilegious if you do try to either take a rare play chart from one game or the stamina rules from one another. No, if it looks like it might work, that's good. But for the most part, I don't try to come up with too many house rules. Too many house rules, that might show that the game's maybe not, probably not worth playing without, doing all these house rules. Or the other fact is that, I've seen way too many guys start to look at a game, especially replay, because the replay has a good following, but it's the baby brother to APBA and Strat. And of course, APBA is, 4 pitcher grades plus other stuff and go down that road, or Strat's 50-50. I mean, there's some high level things that people are going to migrate to and say, you know what, I don't like the other one because of that. And if someone says, oh, look at replay, and then they're going to say, yeah, but can they do, does it count for this? What about this? What about this? And thinking the people that come in, you can tell the newbies that want to know about the game, but they almost seem to come in with finding something that's wrong with it. And every game's got something wrong with it. I can point out all kinds of things I may not like about replay, but I enjoy the game for what it is. If you're looking for the perfect game, you might as well just go outside and do something different, because you're not going to find the perfect PC game or PS4 game or a cards and dice game. You're not going to find it. And it may be somehow perfect for you, but some people go overboard. They want lefty righty Monday's batting average and in Coors Field against somebody. I'm like, whoa, I don't need that much detail. It's kind of cool when I first played Pursue the Pennant, like, this is great, all these things like artificial turf and I'm thinking after a while, like, no, I don't need all this. I can get away with something that feels realistic, because once you find one little thing, then if some people will just like, oh, throw the baby out with the bathwater, they aren't going to like it. So that's just me personally too. I try not to. My brother is a pessimistic person. I'm optimistic, so I tolerate him, because he's my brother. But he gets on a rant, I go, you know what, life's too short, And I got a neighbor that's I got a neighbor that drinks and gets in the political aspect, and he told me the other day, he goes, I got to get off Facebook and I got to stop drinking. I go, well, there you go. You're worried about stuff out of your control. Politics are one thing, religion's another thing. Find something but don't let it fully consume you to the point where you're not enjoying life. We don't have many years left, so, and who knows, days for some people. You never know what's going to happen. So to me, I try to stay active, busy, have fun. I will say I did jump off Delphi for probably a good year. Shut down my accounts. I created another one just to kind of lurk, just because I want to be informed on games. I don't want this drama. And then I finally got the ignore feature to work, and now I got so many people on ignore. I just go, oh, this is great. I get the things I just want to get. That's good. That's all I want. So, anyways, I don't want to bring negative into that, but that just means you can see, with so much stuff coming at us on a daily basis, you can really get bogged down if you're trying to win every battle, or if you're worried about everybody's thoughts on everything. And yeah, to me, it's like, I just don't have time. So.
Yeah, that's we are kindred spirit, and that we're of a like mind on that for sure. I don't, I get the people are so into a game, but it is a game, and it's like, man, anyway, we don't have to,
Yeah, I know.
But the other point, creativity is really what, because you were talking about your different projects. You got a ton of projects. You got the 98 Broncos and the Vikings there. I'm at the Super Bowl that should have been. Let's talk about that.
Probably my top two favorite teams are Minnesota, Denver first, Minnesota second, and I was really, especially since neither one had won up to that point. Well, I guess the Broncos won in '97, so I would have been all right with the Vikings winning in '98 if they would have went there. But the poor Vikings can't seem to get a victory either in the Super Bowl. So, and I suffered through a lot of the Elway, big lead against the Redskins, and then Doug Williams decided to carve them up in the second quarter, and I still can't forgive the Niners for running up the score on them 55-10 and embarrassing them. But and you know what? Another funny story about the Broncos is when the must have been the 2013, I think, when they played the Seahawks. I was going to a coworker's house to watch the game, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. And as I was pulling into the driveway, I had it on the radio, and I heard the snap and the safety, and the Broncos, fell behind, and I was running football squares for people at work. I stayed in the kitchen. I said, I'm not watching this game at all. I just got a bad feeling. That's the first Super Bowl I've never seen a single play from or a replay. I didn't watch ESPN for weeks because I could not bring myself, because I really don't like Pete Carroll. But Seahawks are a great team. They're dominant, and they were good that year. But I just could not believe the Broncos walked in there with their high-flying St. Louis Rams, greatest show on turf kind of mentality, and they got smacked down. I'm going, oh my gosh. At least they made up for it a couple years later with the victory against the Carolina. So, with Cam Newton. That game I kind of had to sweat out too. But yeah, the Broncos championship. So having the 98 ones up there, that to me, I probably will play. I'll probably try and replay that quite a bit, or just play their seasons, because the Vikings were just so talented with Carter and Moss, and I played those on 2nd and 10 and Action PC football. Anytime I can get the 98 Vikings to play anybody, that's just a fun offense to run. So, and the 98 Broncos are good too. So, obviously. Yeah, another side story of that too is 97 Super Bowl. They're playing the Packers, and I started to VHS tape that, because at that point there was no DVR, I believe, or at least not in my home. So I said, I'm going to VHS tape this thing, because they're like a 13-point underdog, and I'll watch it till they get behind by 2 touchdowns, because I figure they're going to they'll get beat. And I ended up watching the entire game because they didn't fall behind. So that was another one that I was just going into that Super Bowl going, I just don't have a good feeling about this. They're going to get smacked down. They get there and they lose. Now, when they played the Atlanta one in '98, that one is at a bar, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'll watch this game. I don't think this is going to be even close. And it turned out to be that, Atlanta couldn't really hang with them. But I really would have liked to see the Vikings and the Broncos in that one. So, yep.
So we shall.
Exactly. Now we can do that. So to me, I think my 3 favorite teams would be the '85 Bears. So I want to do something with them, because I watched a documentary on them, and Walter Payton was one of my favorite players growing up, even though I was living in Michigan, and being a Lions fan was tough, and getting to watch, at least the Bears twice a year, at least, to be playing. But Walter Payton to me was a very special player, and that Bears team was just a cast of characters. So, I would rank my 3 favorite teams are 85 Bears, 98 Broncos, and 98 Vikings. So that's where I kind of, that's why when Al did those, I'm going, yeah, he can stop making it if he wants to. Keep on going. But I have those now, and I got the touchdown finders and everything else. I'm all set. I'm in a blissful mode. I can run with those. So
how many files have you created for Fast Drive now and uploaded to the community section?
it's like 20. There's like 25 or 27 seasons. Whenever all the NFL seasons and the USFL and the WFL. I think I got the touchdown ratios, but I don't have the yardage because that stats aren't available. But I do have, you can at least take the USFL ones and use the touchdown and the field goal data that I use for the NFL teams. So pretty much everyone that Al's put out so far. As soon as he puts them out, I do another one. And he doesn't let me know up front. Now, so I see a thing, now available. I go, I can start scrambling, but I have a template. It's not too bad to do it. The worst part is snipping every one of them dang team cards, but I love that as part of the Excel spreadsheet. When I click and do a drop down, they're there. I don't have to print out any cards to me. Other ones like APBA and Strat and stuff, I like to feel the cards and replay, but here I don't feel like I need to hold the card. So I can have it up on a laptop, and I usually don't try to do a hybrid of a PC screenshot and play cards and dice. But this lends it to me that that's the visual. I can see the helmets, I can see the team cards, I can even see some names on there that that if there's a score, it might be Rocky Blyer, it might be whoever, Bradshaw to Swan or whatever. So yeah, every time he kicks one out, I'll create them. I could probably I could pre-do them, but they're, like I said, they're a little bit more of a. It does take some time, but it's easier to do smaller chunks like this when he kicks out like 2 seasons after all his polls, and then there's a couple weeks delay. So like there is now, since he's working on the expansion for the franchise mode. So I haven't had to create anything since the 2019 set he just did, which gave me the idea for the Super Bowl Tampa Bay and the video you did on the 76 Tampa Bay. Yeah, to me, I did so many second and 10, 76 Tampa Bay just to see how many games I could win. I don't know what that's driven, but there's just a lot of us have that in us that if you're going to try a football game, let's take the 76 Tampa Bay and see what we can do with them. Are they going to be winless? Can they win the 1 or 2 games they probably could have won on paper? So.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of cool projects. I want to, I think, do one where if you put the Bucks in the 76 Bucks in the NFC right from the beginning, and play them through that, maybe.
That's an interesting concept too. Yeah, because back then I was 13, and my brother did like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I remember he had a trash can with the Buccaneer a logo on there. But in '76, I was still more. But I totally forgot that they were in the AFC that one year, because I always thought it was always Seattle. I wasn't watching. I was 13. I wasn't watching the standings, and even in '76, I would have still been a Bronco fan. A Lions fan. It happened in 1977. I started to switch my alliances from the Tigers and the Lions and the Pistons to my favorite players, which were Mike Schmidt, Dr. J. I didn't really have a football one except for Walter Payton, but I don't know why. Maybe it was uniforms, maybe something. It just didn't grab me. But a friend of mine had brought back a Denver Bronco brochure from the game book, whatever his dad went to him, and they were 3-0. And my favorite colors are purple and orange, and they're blue and orange. And I said, all right, this sounds like a good fit. I've got the Phillies, which kind of sounds like a Bronco, but I know it's a play on word on the Phillies or Philadelphia, and Dr. J in Philadelphia. So I said, but I don't like the Eagles, or I wasn't the Eagles. So I just adopted the Broncos, and that was my first year. Of course, then they go to the Super Bowl. I'm thinking, yeah, I love this team until they got smacked by the Cowboys. But I stuck with them. So that's kind of where, even though 76 is a year I kind of remember, it really wasn't one that really, so I said I didn't realize the alignment. If I was a Broncos fan back then, I would have probably said, oh yeah, we got Tampa Bay and now we got Seattle, and but I didn't even realize that was until I do. That's why I think some of these projects, whether they're the finders or you just kind of do some of these projects, you do some research and you start to find out some of these anomalies or some weird things and bring it to people's attention, whether or not it's relevant or not, but it's just kind of some cool things. So history made simple, or, not just thrown all at you at one thing.
I actually bet a friend of mine in the 77 season that the Broncos would win the Super Bowl, which is the last time I ever gambled. It's like, wow. Superstitions. Now, I I don't know if I'll ever replay the '95 season Super Bowl, Steelers Cowboys, because same thing, feeling you had a feeling. Just '85 Bears, I had a feeling the Dolphins are going to win that one.
Yeah.
Would you ever try to replay Super Bowl 12, or would you just completely stay away from it?
Yeah, I think right now the answer would be I don't even have one inkling to go do that because it's painful. But it would be interesting if they played, if they did set up a tournament or something with great teams or Super Bowl teams. But no, I think for me it's almost the same thing with the 2013 Broncos. I asked I think that's available. Yeah, it's a momentum football. I think Downey has it. But they didn't do 2015. I said, well, do 2015 because 2013 would be fun from a Broncos offensive standpoint. But it was a letdown. I mean, they got beat by the Seahawks. I'm trying to forget those ones, but they're not as painful as what they really. I mean, at least they've won a couple. If they were 0-6 or 0-7, I'd be going, I got to find somebody else because it's too painful. But looking back, that Dallas team was phenomenal, and it just you can't win with Craig Morton. he was too old back there, and even though their defense was great, I just it was good for football, and it got me interested in the Broncos, and like I said, I've stuck with them since '77. So and they I didn't know Elway was coming. I didn't know they get a couple Super Bowl wins, but no, not I don't see myself. No, I might though. You're giving me some thoughts. I might have to go replay all the Broncos Super Bowls in Fast Drive Football to see if I get some victories, or how many times it takes till I get a victory. Maybe not. So I don't want to do the touchdown finders with the San Francisco one though, because 55-10 probably will happen in Fast Drive Football, and I'm tired of seeing Montana to Rice or Montana to Taylor or Montana to Jones or whoever he wants to throw to, because that was not a fun game to watch. That was a varsity versus freshman scrimmage right there. They just got their backside beat. So,
do you have any thoughts on creating like those leadership, war games? I always bring up squad leader and the motivational counters. The leader can affect a lot of outcomes, and I just am fascinated with the idea of leadership on the field. You've got that again, the Vikings, '98 Vikings. There's just that one little play, either that motivational, that Elway moment, helicoptering into the end zone. It's like, I'm not going to be denied. Those little eccentricities. Do you think there are any games that incorporate those well, or should or could do it well?
I think Time Travel Baseball attempted to do that. Maybe I think they've got some things. I've only read stuff on time travel. I know that some people. I've never bought it, never played it, but I thought that might have more qualities like that. I could see a lot of Keith's games, and having, even though they're not in there, but you could almost, or even Fast Drive Football could have some kind of some kind of extra, some like the special qualities he's added for the '76 Buccaneers and I think the Steelers to offset some of those automatic touchdowns or interceptions or whatever he's got. You've got those special qualities, so someone could maybe do that. To your point, that's a little different than with wargaming. I mean, yeah, we know who win the wars and whatever you're trying to do, but for me, I'm not so attuned to it to where that bothers me one way or another. Sports I just watch and I live those. The war games are just kind of cool from strategy. And to your point, those then become, yeah, those are nice things. Those are great things to have in the war games because those seem to make the difference. And you want that. It's not just roll a dice and the Germans win or the Axis or Allies win or whatever it is. And I prefer almost games that are almost more evenly matched. I play Memoir 44 online, and you can play either side. And I tried the board game, but I don't think I could hang with that one. There's a PC version of one. I don't mind that one because there's some dice rolling, and you let the PC do all the stuff there. But again, I have a different take, I think, on wargaming than sports gaming. But to your point, that's what makes all those fun and unique. It's even some of the sci-fi games are like that too. You've got to have your squad. You got to have some of the abilities of their armor, and it's a lot, but that brings that you have that tells the story there too. It's almost like Fast Drive Football. One level up is where you get a narrative, you get a story. You're not just rolling dice and comparing a 6 versus a 5. Oh, you lose like Risk. You lose a couple armies because your dice is higher than this one or whatever. You have to really. There's some other ones in there. So yeah, to your point, I think the leadership one. But for sports, I don't know. Yeah, people wanted like chemistry and all that stuff. Like I said, I think History Maker baseball has some of those pregame stuff for the chemistry. I haven't really played enough. I've studied I buy the how-to guides because then I want to go build all the cards just to see if I can do it. And then I really haven't done much of those. I've got way too many games and way too many projects. And right now, if my house burnt down, I think I'd at least grab my laptop so I could always grab my fast drive football and my dice, because that one, for what it is, I just love this game. I mean, because of just uniqueness and what it is. But I probably have to grab some of the old app and strats that are worth a little bit of money. So, but for the most part, I really, it's nice that the fast drive football isn't an old game that is out of print. You can't get anything for. This is a nice, dynamically, going, and Al's created such a buzz, and I think that says a lot right there. I mean, yeah, you can get the flavor of the day, flavor of the week, and some people may, 2 months from now not even pick up fast drive football. But for me, I was waiting for a football game that I felt I could play, and I thought it would be momentum football or game-winning drive, but I just hadn't got the urge to get those out and do it. But once I saw fast drive football, I'm like, oh man, and this got me off my duff to get those, touchdown finders. Now I could go try a game-winning drive, but I think that's going to be too dry. So,
Mark, this has been an absolute pleasure. Any last thoughts for the sports community at large?
I've met a lot of friends through Delphi and now through Facebook. So I've also just recently sold also my replayed classic sets. I met some pastors. I met some police officers, older ones that retired, and so now I really even gave some of the sets away for free because I wanted to show for their service. Because some of them really couldn't afford an asking price. Now, like I said, it's not APBA and Strat $200 a season. I would be, I'd have to think hard about that one. But if it's a old replay classics that I'm never going to use, I said, here, I'll send it to you for free. Take thanks. So I think that's the overall thing. Is I think it would be better if through all the communities, no matter what it is if people could just pull themselves back out of the being critical and the game, or even gamers. Be tolerant of some people. I have some tolerance for some people, some I don't. But you get some people that want to jump in on every single post and every single thing and almost bully or dominate it. And it's like, I have a 2-day rule. If I'm upset and I want to post, I usually wait 2 days, because if I'm still mad after 2 days, I'll post. If not, guess what? It's probably moved on, and there's no. What am I going to gain from it? There's a lot of times, as I said, the ignore button helps great. I get stupid enough to click on the view message, and I go, now I know I put that guy in ignore. I knew I do it. don't get baited in. So, but I think you can make a lot of friends. You don't have to go overboard. We're not all gonna be best buddies forever, and you just gotta kind of but be optimistic and be friendly up front as your first attempt. Fool me once, fool me twice, maybe. Not a third time, but there are scammers out there. There's people that, are going to be just irritants. But I think for the most part, the solo gaming world, whether it's war gaming and sports gaming, if you all start out nice and you don't come in too hot and heavy or with a bunch of opinions, it's good to have opinions, but you don't always have to share them all. And I think just sharing stuff if you can for free. If not, if something does take some effort, go. It's not, if you want to charge something, that's fine for something. But I never felt comfortable charging for my bowling game or these add-ons. I do them for a love for me first. If nobody uses them, I won't. Al doesn't have to host them. I'll just keep them on my laptop. That's good enough for me. But those are kind of the final words. I just think the community needs to grow. There are really good people out there, and sometimes you can shy some people away because there probably are more introverts than extroverts in solo gaming anyway. And so if you get a dominant person coming in and want to control everything, that just kind of pushes some of those people to the side, and maybe not even worth them, and that may ruin the game experience for them too, and it shouldn't, so especially if somebody shoots on their ideas, or even like the college one, I'm running over and trying to drink water from a fire hydrant just talking so fast. but people making like college sets for fast drive, nobody has the formulas, but they're doing it out of love, and they may not be perfect, and if you take one of those teams and it doesn't seem realistic, maybe you can offer some stats or whatever, but to just say, oh, I'm not, that's just shoddy work or whatever, that just means that you're trying to stifle someone's creativity. So, but I just hope people actually, even if they're not vocal on Facebook or Delphi, that they are enjoying the games. And like I said, I try to at least make myself available and even I have my email address out there probably too much more than what I need to, but that's usually one I don't monitor, so I get a lot of spam anyway. I don't worry about it, but I want to have people have contact, and if I can help, great, or point them in the right direction, and so that's kind of, I think it's still we're in a good spot in all the gaming things, but we can always do better, and we can always be more friendly and helpful towards people. So.
Well said, Mr. Miller, Mr. Cuan. Thank you so much, man. This has been fantastic. You hit all the right notes here, I think. Some great food for thought, man. Thank you. And look forward to more of your projects.
I love the YouTube. Probably is one of the best things for me reviewing any board game, sports game, war game. I usually won't buy anything without seeing it. And the things you do, Dave Gardner, all the people that either bring people in, talk about the games, talk about whatever. That to me, that YouTube. When I first came out, I'm like, what is this thing? And now I'm like, I couldn't live without it. First thing I gotta go is to YouTube and see if there's something out there that I can review, or even listen to your interview with Al or Brian Martin. Those guys, I've talked to them before or dealt with them in my bowling game and just in other sporting events. So I know them, but now I seem to feel like I know them more through your videos. So that's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, and it's great to know you better, sir.
Yes, well, it's great to know you as well, and keep up the good work. And we'll see if we can get the one of those Broncos teams to knock out Brady, but I doubt it. Buccaneers team, I should say. But all right.
All right, we'll stay tuned, sir.
All right, thanks. See ya. Bye.